What's going on, everyone? It's Corey here from the Breakevens, giving you another podcast today. I apologize for last week. I had a few things come up at the very last second, so I wasn't able to put the podcast out last week, but I posted everything I could on Twitter and on Facebook. So I'm thinking about doing that a little bit more often. So if you like that and you saw a few of our posts and you want everything posted from this podcast on there, let me know down in the comments below. And I can make sure that that happens. It might just be a bit easier for people. So we're back this week. A day later, so a little bit unfortunate, but life has gotten in the way. But we're back. So before we get into it, let's get through our socials. So you can hit us up on Twitter at BreakeVensPod. Give us a follow over there. We're posting a lot. We're engaging with the community a lot. Just really trying to help out as many people as possible. So find us there. We're on Facebook. The Breakevens Pod just posted a big essay almost of the buys and players who will help us through the buys. So if that's something you like, head over to the Facebook page to read through that. But it will be gone through this podcast as well. But if you want to visualize it over on Facebook, on Instagram at the Breakevens Pod, we're there. I'm posting my weekly reviews of my team. The podcast thumbnails are there, so you know when a podcast has gone up, you'll see it. The link will be in the description there. So you click that link, it'll take you straight to the podcast whenever you want it. And we are on YouTube. We're here on YouTube at the Breakevens. Hoping there a bit more consistency over the last few weeks. I've missed the pod, done one, and last week at the last second had to cancel. So trying to find some consistency, but life is life. We all know how that feels. But there you go. That's the intro, and I think it's time to see how my team went. So I will flick over to my AFL homepage. So this is how I went last week. 2,376. Was pretty happy. I was supposed to get 2,400, especially after the Friday night games. I was looking in pretty good stead. And then Saturday happened, and then half a Sunday happened, and it was a debacle after that. But still scraped to 2,376, jumped up another 1,863 ranks. So I'm just outside top 5K. I was actually looking before I started at 44,000 after round one, and we're now after round 7, and I've clawed it back to 5K basically. So I've burned a lot of trades. As you can see, it's got 21 left, 0 trades remaining for this week, which means I have already used them, but I will revert my team back so you can see how it goes. But very happy with how the team's shaping, and made a few big decisions last week. One of those was getting rid of Nat 5, who went 119. So that didn't quite work, but I think me doing that, I was able to get players that I wanted. And for my trades this week and going forward, it really helps. So, yes, I missed out on a few points there, but I think it's going to help in the long run. So, let's jump over to what my team looked like and how my team went last week. All right, so this is how I ended up. So, we will go through the defense. So first, Harry Sheasel, 108. Was looking for a bigger score, but played midfield The last quarter only scored about 14 points. So that's something to worry about potentially. But I'll take a ton otherwise. Luke Ryan again scrapped his way to 106. Didn't really do much. I was watching this game and I was like, he's hardly touched it, but apparently he just scores points. So I'll take again another 100. Nick Dacos back to back big tons, 130 and 128. Definitely take that. Nicky Martin 124 is lovely as always. Zach Williams with a 78 was looking pretty grim. He was on about 35 or 45 or something at 3/4 time. And I was saying to Jack, I'm going to back him in for an 80. He hit that 80, but then after pre-scale, he went down to. But 78, I'll take. Closey 65. Worried that he was going to get subbed out with an injury, but came back on and didn't seem to affect him too much. In the midfield, Zachy Merritt 127. Basically what I expected, loved it. Zach Butters 82 was a bit disappointing. Had a very slow start, so needing to start like a house on fire this week. Bon, it was a half game from Bon. He still scored 102. We were expecting a bit more, playing a bit more forward. Was a bit of a butcher at the start. Every time he got the ball, he couldn't kick it in the air. It would be like a dribbler kick along the ground for some reason. But then after quarter time, he sort of hit his straps and got to 102. Samuel Walsh 104, which was disappointing. I went with him over Dawson. So missed out on some points there. But again, it's a ton. I'll take it. Took Miller. I backed him in. He went 149, exactly what I wanted. And same with Tom Green, who went 159. Flanders 105, chugging along nicely. And Matty Roberts, the all important Matt Roberts, 80. My mid bench, Wilson 88 and Graham 87. Obviously, if you look at that forward line, I would have preferred him on field. But it is what it is. Rookie roulette at its finest. Maxi Gorn, vice captain 162. He was always a lock for vice captain, and it paid off. So Livingston came on as captain, and English was on the bench as the emergency 134. In the forward line, Heaney 120, and then Pooh, really, apart from Sam Darcy. So Tom Powell went from, it was about 60 to 70% CBAs for the whole start of the season. Then it was 14 or 17% last week. Phillips came in, took a whole bunch there. Sheasel basically played the last quarter, took some there, and Simpkin played a bit more. So a bit worrying about Tom Powell. As I said, Darcy 88 was very happy with that score. Cadman 53. I was hoping for a 60. Missed a few points there. Karmas 45 and Neon 46 were the better options if you look at my forward bench with Garcia. Basically on the bench for 47 minutes, I'm pretty sure it was. So I didn't really get a go, which is annoying. But that's how my team ended up last week. And let's get into my trades now. Alrighty, as you can see, I'm using a boost and it's my last boost. So after this week, I'm going to be out. It's only round 7. I've used 5, but they're there for a reason. So why not? Now, as you can see, Zach Williams, Buku Kamas, and Aaron Cadman. Other ones going out. Yes, I could probably hold Williams, but I want to try and get a big upgrade this week. And then have 2 downgrades. So what I've done is Zach Williams has come out of defense. I have subbed Will Graham onto the field. And then from that, Flanders went into forward line. Garcia, who was on the mid, basically swapped with Harley Reid. And I've gone Livingston into the forward line, which means I need 2 mids and a ruck. So what we'll do is we'll start with the ruck. Actually, if I just go round 7 points, he should pop up. Jordan Sweet, the number one player you need to get in this week, went 136 as the solo ruck. Came out yesterday that Soldo is out for 4 to 5 weeks. So he basically had a month of a number one ruck for 158K at Port Adelaide. So he's going straight in there. Now, my midfield is the tough one. What I'll do is I'll put it to mids only. And this guy, Jordan Dawson, who I was going to get last week, he will come in at 558K. So what I said on the, it was supposed to be on the pod last week, but basically, actually, might have been the week before. I said Dawson's starting to hit some form. He's basically at his lowest. He's at about 533. But I said, look, I'm happy to see one more week when Matt Crouch is back, what his role is, what happens. He came out, basically scored 127 in 3 quarters. Basically didn't play the last, so he was on track really for 140, 150. And he looked back to his best, so he's coming straight in. Now the tough part for me, right? Let's see players I can afford for this last midfield spot. My problem is Riley Garcia. I can't really fit him in because if you think Dawson goes here, right? So it's going to be a bench player. For me to get Garcia, who's a forward only, one of Reed, Powell, Heaney, or Flanders will have to go onto the bench. And if I do that, that means Garcia will have to be on field because Sexton and Livingston won't be playing. Won't be playing this week. We think Sexton might be back. He's been playing well in the twos, and Dimmer did say last week he wants to rest a few of the rookies, so he might actually get a chance. But I'm just worried about having Garcia on field. I'd rather have a rookie on the bench that I know who's going to stay there, and I don't have to really play rookie roulette. So if Sexton is named, then I could go Garcia, and I'd be pretty happy to go Garcia because then I have that, I guess, backup. But I think I'm going to stick with this, and it's Jakey Rogers. Scored a 28 in his first game, which isn't great, and he didn't get subbed or didn't start as a sub. He just had a quiet game. But last week, he looked good. He looked really good. Inside 50, getting the ball inside 50. He pushed up to the contest, got plenty of it. And yeah, just look great. Now hopefully that wasn't a one-off, but he has a good break even. And I feel like he has safer job security than what Garcia has. And I'll go through that reason why a bit later in the podcast. But yeah, those are my trades. So I'll confirm this and put it to the way I was going to have the team, and we'll be back in just a second. And this is how the team is going to line up. So at the moment, no bench defensive rookies and no forward no forward rookies on the bench there. So hopefully Neon plays. That's the risk with this. If Neon doesn't play, then I'm gonna have to do almost like a roulette. Will Powell, you know, will he have a comeback game? Will he score big? You know, or can he just sit on the bench? Can I potentially try and loop him? There's a lot that I'm going to have to try and figure out. So, but this is how it is. Gone vice captain into Merit is what I'm pretty sure I had. But there's a lot of options this week. So actually, I can't do Gone into Merit. So what did I have? It wasn't Sheasel. I think it was Green. Was it Sammy Walsh? Or was it Dawson? I don't remember exactly. It was either Dawson or Walsh into Gorn, I think. Because actually, no, sorry, Gorn Vice into Bont was what I had. And Sweet is on the bench because he's playing Adelaide, which is a tough matchup against Rob. Don't think he'll score as well, and I'd prefer to take the punt on English against the Hawks than I would Sweet against the Crows. So that is my team. So now that that is done, let's go through the podcast. All right. So we're going to start off with our trade out players. The first one is Tom Powell, 414K, for average of 87 and a break even of 115. We were all hopeful that Powell would be that mid-pricer that turns to a primo for our lackluster forward lines. But we've seen a 3-week slide. The first 2 weeks, he had the same role that he did at the start of the season. He might have just been a bit unlucky with his scoring. Maybe disposal efficiency early hurt him there. But as I said earlier, we saw a change this week with Phillips getting more CBAs, Simpkin getting more CBAs, and Harry Sheasel in the last quarter. So he went from 60 to 70% to 14 to or 17% on the weekend. With Phillips and Simpkin taking a large chunk of those. So this may be the end of Powell, and he's easily upgradable this week. Especially our forward lines. You've got a few cheaper guys. You're looking at your McRae's, you're looking at your Mackay's if you didn't jump on. There, a few people might be looking at Dylan Moore. So there's a few options there. I will caution though that Phillips was basically useless, and he got 53% of CBAs. So there's a potential he might get dropped or he might start as the sub. Which I think Clarko's smart enough to be like, well, what was working at the start? Tom Powell. Tom Powell was our engine room. He was the guy. Let's give him that back. So I'm hoping that that's what happens this week. So he's definitely not an essential must trade, but he's definitely someone you can trade. But me myself, I want to give him one more week. But the sirens are going off there. Next one is Zachy Williams, 334K, averaging 68 and has a break even of 80. A lot of people will be looking at trading him out this week, just like I am. For cash gen, his cash has slowed because of that subbed out 33. So he's basically almost maxed out. There are a lot of cheap scoring defenders, which makes Williams a great option this week. Although he is scoring decently and consistently, apart from that subbed out game where he had a knock to his Achilles. And looking at Supercoach through Supercoach Gold, in 2 weeks, Supercoach has him if he hits his targets, which is 71 this week. And I think it's about 71, 74 the week after. If he hits that, he's going to actually make 10K on his price right now. So he'll go down a couple K next week. Then if he hits that, he's going to go up 14K. So he'll be 10K higher in 2 weeks' time than what he is now. So not an essential trade out in my opinion, but a popular one just due to his price. Next one is Aaron Cadman, 287K, averaging 63 with a break even of 52. he's been a consistent scorer and rookie for us this year. And now is the perfect time to offload him with a few rookies on the bubble there. You could hold him for one more week because he does have a 52 break even and he's averaging higher than that. But he's not really going to make you much more. I think it's about 9K. So he's still under that 300K mark. I think it's time to jump off if you can. But if you can't, then obviously keep him for one more week. Next is Buku Karmas, 272K, averaging 59 with a break even of 58. So he's a much loved man here at the break evens. And another serviceable rookie for us this season. His scoring output seems to have dropped. And similar to Cadman, these rookies, there's rookies that he can easily be traded to. If I had to keep one of Karmas or Cadman, I would keep Cadman just because he has the potential to score higher. He's got the lower break even. He's got the higher average. And it just makes sense. Now, unfortunately, there wasn't that many trade out options in my opinion, apart from those guys. I do have here anyone who still has a Bonner, a Zach Fisher, a Jeremy Sharp, an Ollie Dempsey, or a Jack Carroll. They need to be traded ASAP. So you need to get rid of them as soon as possible. They've either stopped the cash gen and they're starting to go down, or there's sub risks. Yeah, you got Carroll, who's been the sub, I think 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Fisher started the sub there. Dempsey surely will be sub soon, you'll think. So you need to get rid of those guys if you have them. They're at their top. They're not going as high as they might have been at the start of the season. So you need to get rid of them. I do think those who still have Massimo D'Ambrosio, you can hold him this week if he returns. If he doesn't return, then he's a must trade out option. If you have both Williams and D'Ambrosio, I'll be getting rid of D'Ambrosio first, just because we know Williams is playing, he's scoring well. And in 2 weeks, he's going to be 10K more expensive. So if you have Massimo, check the teams. If he's playing, I'd play him and keep him. But if he's not, then he is a must trade. So we've been hearing about these rookies that we could possibly trade to. So let's get into them. I actually spoke about three of them just before when I was going through my team. So the first one is Jordan Sweet at 158K as a ruckman. He's averaging 102 with a break even of negative 113. He scored 136 last week. It doesn't get much more of a no-brainer than this. He's the number one ruck at Port for the next month, and he showed that he can score well. I think he scored it was either 68 or an 88 in his first match with Soldo playing, and then Soldo was out. He went 136 against an easier matchup. Yes, he's got a hard matchup this week, but he still showed that he can score. There's not much more to say. He needs to be in your side. Must. If that's R2 or R3, he needs to be there. Next is Jakey Rogers, 148K mid, averaging 63 with a break even of negative 41. And as you saw before, he scored a 98 last week. He showed a lot of potential this week after a low score of 28 in his first game, which again wasn't a sub game. He's not an essential trade-in, but someone who I think could be a great bench option for us and go around that 60 mark if needed, and that's going to make us 100 to 150K. The 28 will hurt his cash generation for this week, but then after that, his break even should be a bit lower, just because that 28 is out of his cycle. Hopefully he scores, around a 60, 70. Then we're probably looking around that negative 40, negative 30 mark anyway. But as I said, another solid score this week could see him make some fast cash for our sides. Next is Riley Garcia, 125k forward, averaging 73 with a break even of negative 74. He went 64 last week, which was great. So heading into last week, basically he was the number one trading target for this week. He had a great first game. Pretty sure he went 82 in his first game. So he's got 2 solid scores and looks to be a great option. But apparently he was supposed to start as the sub last week. And it wasn't until Libba was laid out that a change had to be made. And Daniel came in and started sub, and Garcia got to start the game and played out a full game. So this doesn't give me a lot of confidence, especially with Libba basically guaranteed to be back this week. I think they even might have announced that he is back. So if Garcia gets his chance, so keep an eye on the teams and the sub before the game. But if he gets his chance, we know he can play and he can score. But does he become a risk with that news of that potential subbing? So will he start a sub? Will he be someone that they turn to be subbed? If he's been a bit quieter, but his scoring potential and output is there. So just a caution, just with that news that Bevo came out and said that he was supposed to be the sub last week. And the last one is Sam Naismith, 123k ruck, averaging 68.5 with a break even of negative 66. And he scored a 44 last week. So Naismith finally got his second chance this season, but he was sharing the ruck with Nankervis, which meant he was forced to play as a forward more often, and he looked terrible. We saw him score a 93 first game when Nank wasn't playing, and he looked great. But then Nank's back. He got his second game. He scored a 44. It wasn't much output there. So, unfortunately, with Sweet being the must-have rookie this week, that puts Naismith on the back burner, and he's no guarantee that he plays this week. And if he does, you're probably looking at a best of 60, but I think that 45 to 55 is probably where we're looking if Nankervis is fit and can play the full game. So I still think he is a great option. He's going to make you money, but Sweet's there. You need Sweet. And all other rookies that are viable options, in my opinion, aren't viable options in my opinion, just due to being sub risks or potential just being fringe players going in and out of the sides, with no job security. So I think it's those 4, but if I had to pick, Sweet would be one. And I think just going off job security, you'd go Rogers over Garcia, but anything could happen. So those are the bubble boys for this week. And now we move towards our trade in targets. Now, at the start here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the buys and buy structures. Then I'm going to get into the trade-in players themselves. I'm going to name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to name 7 players here. I'm not going to go into full detail, but you'll see why in a second. But I think they're all trade-in options for the next few weeks anyway. So don't forget those names when I read them out. But we are in the thick of things right now, and we should probably start thinking about our buy structures and trying to plan for them. So we're heading into round 8. Round 12 is the first of the 4 mid-season buy rounds. So they're going to come quick. And looking at my side, I had a few problems. So it's sort of changed my trades in the next coming weeks. It's not going to hurt my side at all. It's just maybe I'm looking to get certain players at a later date. So for me, and I'm guessing for most, round 14 seems to be the toughest buy. You've got the Blues, the Bombers, your Cats, Demons, Eagles, and your Suns all sharing this bye. So if we're looking at, just the big main players for the Blues, you've got Walsh at the moment. If you've got Williams, some might be jumping on Cripps, who's hit some form. You've got Harry Mackay, Charlie Curnow. All right, so you've got four primos there. One, Zach Williams should be at your side by this stage, but just to add him in just for now. For the Bombers, you got Merritt, you have Nick Martin. Some people might have jumped on a Caldwell or a Durham, potentially a Parrish, or one that I've seen recently has been Jakey Stringer, who's basically been playing as a full mid. So a few people might be jumping on. Then you got probably another two there. Most people have Merritt and Nick Martin. So if you think probably Walsh and then them two, you've got three. Then you head into the Cats. You got Tom Stewart there as probably the main one. A few people might jump on Jeremy Cameron. But outside of that, there's not much there, right? But mainly Tom Stewart. The D's, you've got Gorn and Petrarca as the main two. I don't think anyone else is really going anyone unless you jumped on Clary, hoping for the best. But probably those two guys. Everyone probably has gone. So you're up to 5 players already from the first 4 teams, and then you have the Eagles, which those who jumped on Yo or started Yo, you've got another one there. You're up to 6, and a lot of us have Harley Reid, who is looking potentially a primo in our forward lines. So really, you're looking at about 6 or 7 players here, and then you have the Suns, who you got Took, you have Rowell, you got Anderson, you got Flanders. Am I missing anyone? Took, Anderson, Rowell, Flanders. Yep, 4 there. If you're like me, I have Took and I have Flanders, and the rest of the rookies. So it's okay that they'll be gone by then. So really, we're looking at about 7 to 8 primos out in round 14. And we have 30 players in our team. So basically, everyone is down to 22 players if everyone on your bench is playing, which is nuts. So if you take away maybe 1 or 2, people looking at 20 in best 18, where we want to try and maximize and try and get as many as we can, so we can make changes with rookie roulette, or maybe like a Tom Powell who's a bit inconsistent. You try and loophole him on. It's looking tough that buy. So that makes us really look towards the round 13 buy, where Freo and Port are the only 2 teams that have this buy. And they will provide great cover for rounds 12, 14, and 15. So if you think about players from those clubs that you probably want in your side, or be thinking about getting into your side. So these players who you should target over the next few weeks are Zach Butters, which most probably have him. Caleb Sarong, which is about 50-50. A lot of teams have him, a lot don't. Dan Houston, Hayden Young, who a lot traded and want to get back in. Lukey Jackson, who's the same as Young. Lukey Ryan, and with Rosie fit for this week, here's another one. So Zach Butters, Sarong, Houston, Young, Jackson, Ryan, and Rosie. They are all trading targets for this week and the next probably 2 to 3 weeks as well. The good thing is Houston's usually pretty easily accessible. Same with Young and Jackson there. So those are the easy ones to bring in. Jackson is most likely going to be top 6 forward, so he's a must to bring in. He can also cover that that ruck if you do a bit of funny business. Young looking top 6 defender potentially, definitely top 8. Houston's top 6 definitely there. Luke Ryan's number 1 in defense at the moment. So it's really just the midfielders that are a bit hard to get in because Luke Ryan will go down in price in the next few weeks. I think so. But as Sarong, Rosie, Sarong's probably been the most consistent. Butters, if he starts well, could go massive at any game. He's that real, that the guy for Port. And Rosie's that has been doing well as well. So there's 7 guys there that you should be looking to get in to help cover those buys. Obviously, you don't want all of them in at once because then the round 13 buy that is supposed to be the easy one becomes the hard one. Especially by then we're getting rid of a lot of good rookies around there. So I think if you should try and have 3 or 4 of these players in your side by round 13 or by round 14. So for me personally, I've got Butters and I've got Luke Ryan. So I've got 2 there. In the next few weeks, I'm hoping to get Houston and Jackson. So that's 4. Right. And then after round 13, that's when I'm going to target Sarong and possibly Hayden Young. So I'm looking to have 6 of the 7 there. So the only one not playing is Rosie. And only 4 of those will miss out on the round 13 bye. So that's what I'm hoping to do. Obviously, injuries happen, suspensions happen, changes in roles and forms will happen. So might make it a bit harder, but that's what I'm trying to do to combat the round 14 bye. So all those people are trade in targets. So I just haven't gone into detail with them this week, but the buys they're coming. So you need to start thinking about that. So let's get into all the other players. So Tom Green, 579k mid, averaging 120. Green has dropped in price since the start of the season and had a few quieter weeks. But last week he showed his class and went massive with the 159. This could possibly be the cheapest that we see him this year and provides coaches a great trade option this week. He does play the Swans, though, who are the 4th hardest team for midfielders this year. But if it's a tight contested game, we know what Tom Green can do. Next is Rory Laird at 562k as a midfielder, averaging 110. He's slightly gone under the radar this season with a lot of attention on Dawson. This was his best game by far, though. He got plenty of the ball in the centre, which previous weeks he's been looking a lot more of the ball on the wing. He provides value and a pod selection for our side. So he does play Port in the showdown this week, so anything could happen. They usually go pretty hard. And Laird, probably being second fiddle, will probably benefit from that. But Jordan Dawson's the next one at 558k as a midfielder, averaging 100. He started the season very slow, mainly due to his poor kicking. But the last 2 weeks, he's looked back to his best and has been dominating. He scored 127 last week, and basically, as I said before, didn't play the last quarter. So he was looking at 140 plus, potentially 150. So he was managed because the game was over. There was no need. They got the showdown this week, so just give him a little rest. So now is the week to jump on if you didn't last week, as he provides tremendous value, and I think he can keep this form up. Next is Lockie Whitfield, 543k defender, averaging 108. I have spoken about Whitfield in previous podcasts, so I won't go into crazy detail, but we know how well he scores off the halfback, and he has secured that role once again under Kingsley. He's a cheaper defending option, and I think you can rely on him to go, your 100 to 110 and just consistent scores. He's going to be around that 100. Then he'll have a couple of games where he goes 130. Tommy Stewart's next one, 538k defender, averaging 97.5. He missed last week due to concussion, meaning he's a great pick for outsides this week. And obviously, he got subbed out on, I think it was about 33 or something. So his average is lower than it really should be. He's probably more that 115 average. 138 break even means you could wait that extra week because he's probably going to go down. But we know how well he can score, and by season's end, he'll be top 6. Does have the round 14 bye, which I just spoke about. So make sure you check your structures before jumping on him. Next one is a funny one. Jake Waterman, 525k forward, averaging 97. A name I never thought would be mentioned in this manner, but the kid's been playing very, very well. 133 average over his last 3 weeks. That is with Oscar Allen out the side. So I'm not 100% sure when he's back. That could affect him, but at the moment, he is the guy. He's the West Coast guy. He's kicked 15 goals in his last 3 weeks. Unfortunately, though, that is why he's scoring so well. And he does seem to rely on goals to score points. So can he continue this run? And how long until teams start to put the number 1 defenders on him to stop his impact? So he is a major risk, but it's our forward line, so why not? Next is Dylan Moore, 462k forward, averaging 87.6. The ultimate burn man, and has been for the last 2 seasons, where he plays well in patches and then he goes missing for the rest of the season. Back-to-back tons, though, and starting to get his hands on the football. It seems if he gets 20 touches, he usually tends to score well. He did kick 4 goals 2 weeks ago. That dragged him just over 100. So you take those goals away, you're probably looking at an 80. But it's the same with Waterman. It's our forward lines. We need to find people who can score. So another risky pick, but someone to look at if you can carry on this form. Next and lastly is Bailey Dale, 457k defender, averaging 92. 2 massive back-to-back tons, being the only guy to distribute the ball outside of D50. I spoke last week, unfortunately wasn't on the podcast about him, but I did post it on our Facebook page at Breakevens Pod. He seems to have that halfback role locked down. There's no Daniel to take his points, which means I think he can go 105 plus for the rest of the season and is dirt cheap. He's a great option, especially for those looking to trade out Williams or Massimo D'Ambrosio this week. One thing I will say is I did see a stat the other day. I can cut. Yep. So obviously Lib has been out the last 2 weeks. We knew he was going to be out. Ed Richards has played midfield, so I've got a comparison of averages of Bailey Dale with Richards playing in the midfield or without Richards. So in 2023, when Richards played, Bailey Dale averaged 86.6. Without Richards playing, Bailey Dale averaged 111. So if you think about that, what's that? 25 points difference, roughly. That's a big jump. And this season, when Richards was playing in defense, Bailey Dale averaged 79. And with Richards in the midfield or not playing, he averages 133. So you're looking at 54 points difference there. That's nuts. So what it seems is if Richards moves back to the defense, we could see Dale lose some form. Well, not lose form, but lose his scoring output, which is gone 130 plus. He could go 80 this week. And it's crazy to think that. But it is something to keep an eye on. So I'm not going to look at Dale at the moment. He is cheap. He does have a low break even, but I'm going to look and see what his output is with Richards in the side. Now, previous seasons, we've had Caleb Daniel down there take points from him, playing the same role. Will Richards do the same? We're going to have to find out, but that is a little bit concerning in my opinion. That's all the trade in targets. Obviously, there's the bubble boys that I spoke about earlier who are obviously trade in. So let's finish off with the captain. So playing on Thursday and probably being your VCs, it's the Crows versus Port. So Zach Butters, 134 last game against the Crows. It's the showdown. So both teams will be looking for a fight and to impress. I did put here with Rosie most likely missing this week because it looked like a hamstring, but he seems to be playing. Keep an eye on teams. Butters could see a bit more of the ball and have a nice 130 plus score. I still think he'll score well even with Rosie in the side. Just if Rosie's out, I feel like the tap down from Sweet could go a bit more Butters' way. That's all. Dan Houston, 122, 110 in his last two against the Crows. Houston playing at the Adelaide Oval against Port is the ultimate favourable fixture. And I think most will bypass him just because you have Dawson, you have Butters, who are, their ceilings are bigger. So I can see him scoring very well this week, and I think a lot of others will as well. So he's one there. Next, I've put them both together. Jordan Dawson, Rory Laird, both have great history against Port and have scored well in the last couple of weeks. If I had to choose one, I would prefer Dawson just on recent form, and I think he is the better option just due to his ceiling. I think he's more likely to go 170 than Laird is. Laird's more your 130, maybe push a 150, but I think Dawson has that real high ceiling. So probably Dawson, but if you have Laird, he's definitely a viable option. My smoky pick for this game, so this is something I've added in this week, is for each game, I'm going to do a smoky pick, which someone who you probably won't think about or might go a bit under the radar. So for this game, my smoky pick is Jason Horne-Francis. If Rosie is out, he could see a lot more mid-time. And we've seen how well he can score in that midfield. So the Hornet could potentially go big. So just keep an eye on that one. Friday, you're probably looking at a VC because if you don't VC anyone on the Thursday, you'll be looking to this game potentially. It's the Blues versus the Pies, big game. Sammy Walsh is an option here. He's gone 92, 123, and 105 in his last three against the Pies. He has a career average of 116 against the Pies, it's a massive game. It's two massive rivals, and Sam Walsh, if he kicks well, because he kicked very poorly last week at the start, well, actually the whole game really, this could have a monster score. I'm talking, I can see Walsh going 160 if everything goes to plan and he kicks the ball. Don't quote me on it though, all right, because there's no real reason behind it. I haven't done research and go, this is going to happen. It's just something in me is saying he's going to tear this game apart. So I see a world where he just dominates this game. Next is Nicky Dacos. He doesn't have a great record against the Blues, but you can never count the guy out. Playing off the halfback, getting plenty of the ball, rotating into the midfield. He's back. He's gone back-to-back 120 pluses. You could do a lot worse this week. And I think they're really the only two main options. But my smoky pick for this week is Harry Mackay. I think he kicks a bag this week. I think he kicks 4 or 5 against us and could see a slightly elevated score. If Pitternet is dropped for whatever reason, I think Mackay has potential for a massive score as the second ruck. He's still scoring well with Pitternet in the side, but I think his ceiling is compromised when he plays. So I don't rate Pitternet anyway. I do rate De Koning better, but I know they play Pitnet against like the bigger bodied rucks because he is a lot stronger. So keep an eye on Harry Mackay though. Saturday, you're looking at your VC or C option. So we've got the Swans versus the Giants, and first up is Isaac Heaney. Not a great recent history against the Giants, but has been the surprise packet of 2024, and he's scoring points for fun. It's hard to look past Heaney, and Giants do tend to lose some points in the midfield from time to time, being the 11th hardest to score against as a midfielder. Parker is potentially back this week, so he could lose some minutes there, but he's been their number one player. And I think if you take him out, they lose a lot of momentum and threat going forward. So Isaac Heaney there. Next is Errol Goulding, 120, 119, and 97 in his last three. Seems to enjoy playing the Giants, and recent history does suggest that. And he could be around that easy 120 mark. He's yet to set the world on fire this season, but this week could be the week we see him hit his stride. So probably a bit riskier, but definitely someone who could go massive. Next one is Tom Green, 126, 118, 164 in his last three against the Swans. Although the Swans are the fourth hardest midfield to score points against, but Tom Green is different gravy. And if you look at that history in his last three games, it's tough to ignore. It will be a tough contested matchup, but that works in his favor. And the smoky pick in this game is Lockie Whitfield. He will go under the radar with the caliber on offer in this game, but we know he's super consistent and could go 130 this week if he sees plenty of the ball down in defense. Next is the Saints versus the Roos. First up is Harry Sheezel, 126, 110 in his only two games against the Saints. The Saints give away the most points to defenders this year in Supercoach, and Sheezel could be left just to roam around and do as he pleases. My only concern is last week he moved up the ground and played into the midfield, and his scoring did drop considerably. Clarko has spoken about how that could be a potential thing this season, and hopefully he doesn't put him back in the midfield this week because we could see 140, 150 plus. But if he plays in that midfield, I think he could go under 100. So it's definitely a risk this week. But risk versus reward. It's up to you. And if you're feeling lucky. Next is Jack Steele, 160, 95, and 154 in his last three against the Roos, who give away the second most points to midfielders this year. And look at that scoring history, 160, 154. Thank you. My only concern, though, is Steele had his knee heavily strapped last week, and he didn't look like the same player that he did at the start of the season. We do know news has come out that Steele and Marshall did not train yesterday being Tuesday. So it's a big watch, but he still has the potential to go massive in this game. Nonetheless, it's the Roos. So keep an eye. Smoky pick for this game is Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. We have seen him tear up games so far this season. He did it against the Pies. Yeah, absolutely destroyed us. And this could be a game where he does that once again and could see another massive score from Nasiah. Next, it's the D's versus the Cats, and Maxi Gawn, 92, 98, 135 in his last three. Recent history doesn't scream great, but this year the Cats are the third easiest team to score points against as a ruck. And Big Maxi has been dominating the competition. Real simple for me this week. Gawn must be a vice captain or captain for your side. It just has to happen. And that's why I haven't put anyone else here. I've put Smoky picks. I've put Petrarca or Stewart. It's hard to separate the two, as Petrarca has been a bit low on form and Stewart has just come back after a concussion. So flip a coin, but I'll be going Max Gawn. Next, it's the Eagles versus the Bombers. And first up is Zachy Merritt, 143, 110, and 111. The Eagles are the fourth easiest midfield to score points against this year, and Merritt has been on fire. we'll find it very hard to go against Merritt this week. The only thing for me is his game starts, I think it's like 50 minutes or 40 minutes after the Cats D's game. So it's basically flip a coin between Max Gawn and Zach Merritt. Nick Martin, as we know, playing down back and taking all the kick in, seems to score points for just breathing. Similar to Luke Ryan last week, didn't really seem to do much, but scored 124. So we could easily see a big score coming from him this week, upwards of 130 plus. I think the smoky pick is Harley Reid. That's right. It's not Elliot Yo. It's the young kid. He was managed last week to see family and just freshen up his mind. I can see him coming back and just exploding. Are you game enough to jump on him? I'm definitely not, but it could just be one of those things. You chuck the captain or vice captain on Harley Reid and he goes 150. And that's all the Saturday games. So then we'll head to the Sunday, which are all pure captain options. You got Tigers versus Freo. So up first is Lukey Ryan. Tigers are the fourth easiest team to score points against as a defender. And Luke Ryan could see a lot of the ball, let alone a lot of kick-ins, as Richmond tend to forget where the goals are. So easy points there. The only thing is Josh Draper did injure himself last week. He's a chance to play, but if he's out, that might hurt Ryan a little bit because he might have to be a little bit more key defense rather than trying to intercept. But I think that's not going to stop him this week. Next is Caleb Sarong. Tigers are the easiest team this season to score against as a midfielder, and Sarong is an absolute beast. I can see 140 plus score coming very easily this week. I heard Tigers midfield, he could absolutely explode. The smoky pick for this game is Shy Bolton. I have to give Richmond some love, and if anyone is going to score, it's probably Bolton. Playing that high half forward and rotating mid, I can just see a world where he scores well. He bobs up for these games randomly, and this could be the game. Next is the Dogs versus the Hawks. You got Marcus Bontempelli, 115, 122, 136 in his last three. The Hawks are the third easiest midfield to score points against, and Bont could have a field day. Something to think about, though, is will Bevo rest him forward a little bit more to help manage him? He's still 140 plus, score on the cards. So do as you will. Timmy English, 143, 90, and 102 in his last three. Miki's doing a great job this year and will probably win a lot of the tap outs. But the way English has been moving around the ground and using his stamina to work out, to outwork the rucks has been a strong point. I think English could do some damage this week. I don't think Meek has that tank. So if he outruns him, he could push forward and kick a lot of goals. My smoky pick is Bailey Dale, back-to-back massive tons, and being the guy coming out of the fence, Dale could absolutely monster it up this week if Richards doesn't affect him too much. And the last game for the round is the Lions versus the Suns, and Matt Rowell is the first one. The matchup says it's not a good one. Lions are the third hardest midfield to score points against this season, but as we know, Matt Rowell doesn't follow the rules, and I think he out tackles and out powers the Lions midfield and goes 130 once again. Are we looking at possible M1 for 2024? You tell me down below in the comments. Josh Dunkley, 133, 153, 116 in his last three. He's got great recent history, but the Suns are the hardest midfield to score points against in 2024. In saying this, if anyone from the Lions side can get on top of the Suns, it is Dunkley, and we could see a very good score coming our way. I just think Neil seems a little bit battered and a little bit injured, and it's not having the same impact. So I think Dunkley is the guy. My smoky pick for this game is Noah Anderson. 150 plus scores in the last 3 weeks, going under the radar. but is in some fine form as of late. Could we see him benefit this week from his inside-outside role? I think we could. So keep an eye on Noah Anderson there. All right, that leads me to my top five. So my top five VCs this week. Coming in at number 5 is Isaac Heaney. Coming in at number 4 is Jack Steele. 3 is Sammy Walsh. Coming in number 2 is Dawson, and number 1 is Max Gawn. The reason behind that, I think Max Gawn's the obvious one. Dawson probably missed the consistent, playing poor at Adelaide Oval. I think the occasion gets him there. Samuel Walsh, just because it's Collingwood, he usually tends to play well. He's been on fire, and as I said, I think he just dominates this game. So keep an eye on Walshy. Still, if that knee's okay, we know he can go big, and Heaney is just Mr. Reliable this season. And my top captain options for this week, coming in at number 5, is Lukey Ryan. I just think there's plenty of ball down there. And he's just Richmond just decided to kick points, so he's going to get a lot of kick-ins. Number 4 is Bont. There's a big score there. It's just how much forward does he play? Does he get managed or subbed like Libba did a few weeks ago? So got him in at number 4 just for that reason. Number 3 is Caleb Sarong. I definitely rate this pick this week. If you go a Gawn VC, I think Sarong is one of the best options you could go for. Number 2 is Gawn. If you go the VC on the Thursday or the Friday, I think Gawn is the guy. They're coming at number 2, and number 1 is Zach Merritt. I just think the matchups themselves, Merritt is more likely to go absolutely massive, but you could just change it to Gawn Merritt 1-2. It doesn't matter. They're both going to score well, in my opinion. So that is all of the captain's options and everything for this podcast. A little bit different because I spoke a bit about the structures. But I think that's really important information that not everyone will maybe be thinking about right now. So I might do a small video during this week or next week, maybe just talking about buy structures and showing you guys my side and my thoughts on that. So let me know if you do want that down below. Give us a like, give us a follow, whatever, wherever you are. Subscribe, follow, like, whatever it is, because it does help. So that is going to do us. So just before I go, I'm going to go through the socials again. So on Twitter/X at Breakevens Pod, on Facebook, the Breakevens Pod page. There's a lot of stuff going out there. I'm posting crazy amount. So if you want information, that's where you go. Over here on YouTube, the Breakevens, and on Instagram, Breakevens Pod. Thank you so much for sitting through that. My mouth's a bit dry, so I should probably stop talking. You've probably had enough. So thank you again for watching or listening. And until next week, it's bye for now.